Microsoft has announced their new multi-platform everything's an Xbox strategy, and it's got people thinking crazy on both sides overall. And in this video, I wanted to break down something that I've heard people say when it comes to exclusives and how people look at it, especially in the new year, the modern age of gaming. Now, I am old school. I am of the thought process that exclusives help sell your systems. One of the biggest reasons why I went out there and picked up the PlayStation 2 or the PS1 back in the day, or the Xbox 360 or the Nintendo Switch or whatever, was to play the console manufacturers' first party high quality exclusives that you can only get on that platform. That was one of the big reasons why I loved the original OG Xbox. You had Halo on there, you had Jade Empire on there, you had KOTOR on there. It was great to play those. The PlayStation 2 had a plethora of exclusives from first and third-party developers. Stuff like Devil May Cry, God of War 1 and God of War 2, Ratchet and Clank, Sly Cooper. There were so many exclusives to play on the PlayStation 2, it blew away the OG Xbox and the GameCube overall in terms of exclusivity, first and third party wise. But even with the Nintendo GameCube, even with the portable systems, if you look at those, the original Game Boy with Pokemon and everything, exclusives have always played a big part in the success of a system, regardless of how well it did. Even if it didn't sell as much like the GameCube, it would have sold like almost nothing if it didn't have Super Smash Bros. Melee and the exclusives that it does have. But I talk about this. We obviously see the sales numbers. Most people do. But there are still some people out there that feel that, nope, that's not the case because of Microsoft's new strategy. Because Microsoft is now doing something different at this point, exclusives don't sell systems. You don't need exclusives for your system to do well. So we're going to break down what was said from some of these PC slash Xbox gamers. I'm not exactly sure, probably PC gamers. And then we're going to break down exactly what is going on here and how this affects Nintendo in the future going forward. But before we get into all that, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get all of my videos as soon as they drop. Now let's get into this, because on Twitter, I did see that the old Wii U elephant is in the room once again when it comes down to exclusives and if they help sell a system or not. And somebody was like, oh, well, yeah, you need exclusives to sell your system, but then they point out the Wii U. And I find this funny because the Wii U is going on, what, 11 years now since its launch? Yeah, it's like 11, 12 years since the launch of the Wii U, and people still haven't figured out why the Wii U's actually failed. And the Wii U, when it comes to exclusives, that's not necessarily the reason why it failed. It was the timing, it was the marketing, and it was the launch of the system. Those exclusives that came out for the Nintendo Wii U were, one, not fast enough to come out on the system. We had to wait quite a while. There were droughts all the time. And two, didn't take advantage of the unique proposition of the system enough overall. It took 2 years essentially to start getting the really big games on there, and at launch you need to have that momentum right away. You need to have those big titles right away. You can't wait all the way for 2-3 years before you really get going. You add on top of that the confusion of the marketing, the bad marketing of the system, and that's really what happened to it. But even if you look at the exclusives right there at launch, Nintendo Land was not Wii Sports. New Super Mario Bros., we had already been playing that. There was one on the DS, there was one on the Wii, there was one on the Nintendo 3DS. They were overloading us with New Super Mario Bros. It took a while before Pikmin even came out, and Pikmin's not a massive franchise. Then we got stuff like Wind Waker, okay, that is a remaster. Then we got Super Mario 3D World, which was great, but that's one full year afterwards. The Wonderful 101 was a flop a bit. Lego City, people weren't looking to buy that when it comes down to a system seller. So overall, it was so slow picking up on those exclusives, and Nintendo really didn't get going until 2014. By then, it was way too late. And if you look at it, the system with all the actual Nintendo exclusives that Nintendo has was cooking. The Nintendo 3DS got a mainline Fire Emblem, which was not on the Wii U. It got a mainline Animal Crossing, which was not on the Wii U. It got mainline Pokemon games, which were not on the Wii U. It got big games from Square Enix like Bravely Default, for example, and other titles that were not on the Wii U. The Wii U did not have the type of exclusives that you truly need in the modern market with huge competition, even against yourself with the Nintendo 3DS. It did not have the type of games in order to push it enough. When people try to go back in history and act like the Wii U had all of these games that were dropping left and right and tons of exclusives to really push the system from the beginning, and there weren't a plethora of other issues, I find it hilarious to try to defend the fact that Microsoft is putting games on everything, maybe because they want that, they like PC, and that's kind of how PC is overall. And I understand, but it is factual when you look at the sales numbers of a system and you see the top selling games. When it comes to a closed box device, you see the top selling games. The top selling games are what makes the system sell. The exclusives are what it does. And if you look at the best selling systems of all time in the history of gaming, all of them have a really strong exclusive lineup. All of them have consistent exclusive games. You look at the very top with the PlayStation 2, tons of exclusive first and third party wise. You look at the Nintendo DS, a bunch of exclusives first and third party wise. You look at the Nintendo Switch, a ton of exclusives and some third party exclusives as well here or there, or games that launched exclusive at first then came over to other platforms, but a lot of first party games that sold crazy amounts of numbers. Look at the PlayStation 4. There was a large amount of first party exclusive games on there too. You look at the PlayStation 1, look at all of the systems that have done the best. The Nintendo Wii, a ton of first and third party exclusives, a lot of shovelware on some of that stuff, but still a number of first and third party exclusives that help push the system. The best selling games on these platforms, a lot of them are going to be first party exclusives or third party exclusives as well. But for Nintendo's case, in particular to this one here, you can point out the Wii U, but the Wii U had so many other issues, and without those big exclusives like Mario Kart 8, which sold over 8 million on an install base of 13 million, without that, it would have sold like the Virtual Boy if it didn't have Super Mario 3D World and Super Smash Brothers and Mario Kart 8. It would have been a disaster on unprecedented levels, even though it already was a disaster on unprecedented levels for any Nintendo home console. It would have been 10 times worse if they didn't have those exclusives. So whenever I see people say, what about Wii U? Well, what about all the things that were actually the problem with the system? Obviously, you need third-party support too. Wii U's third-party support dried up after the first initial push. And why did it dry up after the first initial push, even though it had a lot of third-party games? Nobody was buying those third-party games because when it comes to Nintendo, nobody's buying a Nintendo system for third-party games that they can get on other platforms, and usually cheaper because it's coming late or maybe because the optimization isn't the best. So why are you going to buy them on the Nintendo Wii U when you can simply buy them or already have them on the systems that you already have? You need first-party games to truly push what Nintendo's trying to do overall, since they do make different type of hardware. Now, it might be a little bit different, obviously, for PC or for Xbox or for PlayStation. They can rely upon third-party a bit more. They're pushing the tech more, the features, things like that, that make those games truly shine. But when it comes to Nintendo, you've got to have the stuff like The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. That being a launch title for the Nintendo Switch was the smartest move that they can do. Yes, it's on the Wii U, but the Wii U was already done at that point. It essentially launched as a de facto exclusive for the Nintendo Switch, as 2 million plus people bought the game in the first month, while the Nintendo Switch actually had less sales than that. So there were more people that had Breath of the Wild than the Switch at one point in time. That tells you right there that, yeah, exclusives are big system sellers. Super Mario Odyssey, Mario plus Rabbids, Pokken Tournament, ARMS, Splatoon, these are all the games that drove the Nintendo Switch to big sales. If it was just third-party games, it would have sold nowhere near as good as that. So don't get me wrong. You definitely need a mix of those big games. You need a mix of the multi-platform. You need the indie games. You need the first party. But one of the big things is that exclusives absolutely are needed to truly have health of your system and to drive those sales home. You need those exclusives. And systems that don't have it, you're seeing what's happening right now with the Xbox. They've struggled with the Xbox Series S and X all generation on getting timely big exclusives. There was 1 year in the Xbox Series life that they had no big first party exclusives for the whole year. Essentially nothing was exclusive. You can just get everything on everything else. Nobody's buying the system year on year. Every single time sales are going down and down. I like to look at overall how's the market going, but it's undeniable looking at Xbox's sales when they already are struggling. And you look at why, well, it's because the games. You need those big system sellers. You need those big exclusives to attract people to buy your system. And I don't think this is rocket science, and I don't think this is something controversial. But once again, people were going at me on Twitter and lots of places saying that, no, it's not that important. The third party, that's what you really, really need. And I'm like, well, yeah, maybe Microsoft or Sony, well, even maybe Sony, but not for Nintendo. And even if you look at Sony, they ensure that they have a plethora of console exclusive games. Even if it's not overall exclusive, they'll still make sure that it's console exclusive. Even stuff that's coming out recently, stuff like Stellar Blade, that is a console exclusive for right now. Coming to PC later, who knows if it comes to other platforms. You look at Rise of the Ronin, you look at a number of titles that have came out. Astrobot, Game of the Year, quality of game overall. You look at what they're trying to do, and even in off years, they still try to get more exclusives on their system to entice people to buy it, on top of people buying it for the big third-party games. So it needs to be a mixture, but without those first-party exclusives on PlayStation, they sell significantly less, in my opinion. Without those big God of War, Ragnarok, and Spider-Man, and Horizon, and these type of games that are exclusive to PlayStation at first when it comes to consoles, I don't think the system sells anywhere near as much, and I think Sony has way less success if they didn't have those big type of games and really only focused on third party. And things are even getting tighter. You're seeing what's happening with Microsoft, but I think at the end of the day, just look at the Nintendo Switch and look at the exclusives and look at the sales that they've gotten. Stuff like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, look at Pokemon, look at Legend of Zelda, look at Super Smash Brothers, look at all of these games, and then look at Xbox and see what exclusives they have and see how those don't sell anywhere near as much. So that right there is proof enough to me that yes, if you have top tier, great exclusives from the jump, and you have a consistent lineup of quality and consistency, Game of the Year nominated type of games, yeah, that's going to get you way more console sales, and it's going to put you in a position to be successful. It's not the be all end all. You have to have a bunch of other things that go right for you, but ultimately, it's really important. And that's why you're seeing now Microsoft is saying everything is an Xbox, because they can't sell systems and they want to have their games on platforms that actually sell, like the Nintendo Switch, like the PlayStation, obviously like PC and all of that. They want to have it on everything so they can reach more consumers, so they can be incredibly profitable and make way more money than they're making right now. And that's why they've changed their strategy, because they had trouble with that. So it is what it is. That's my thought process on it. I think that, once again, it's not rocket science. It's not anything too crazy, but I wanted to respond to some people that responded to me on Twitter and other social media. So what are your thoughts on this, guys? Do exclusives truly matter at the end of the day? Do they not matter? What do you think is the balance overall? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch RPG videos and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.